meet up and like show off, instead of showing their portfolios to majors that just ignore them anyway, why don't you show your stuff to writers and writers show your stuff to artists and start meeting up and making your own comics and then getting it funded on Kickstarter? To me, it seems like, I mean, I don't want to start like a weird DIY down with the big man scenario, but I kind of feel like at this time with the web and Twitter and social networking and cons, you have no excuse not to meet up with some really talented people, guys and girls, not just women, and make your own thing and be competitors for DC and Marvel and be the next person that comes up with the next great character instead of writing for other people and their franchises. Make your own franchise and be the next thing that I give all my money to.
And if you can bypass the mind-numbing submission process in any way, I recommend it.
I have worked, you know, I'm freelance now, but I've been an editor in Robbins for about 10 years. And from that perspective, you know, it's difficult. You see a lot of stuff. And there are certain things that you're hamstrung by what the company's willing to do, what kind of project. And even if you think something is really wonderful and great, there's just no guarantee that you can get it through yourself and approved, because there's huge approval processes at these places. And, you know, especially when you're looking at like superhero franchises, I mean, there's really established character stuff there, so I think that's even harder. I worked at Vertigo, so I had slightly easier things. I was supposed to create our projects, but even that is really tough, and it can be soul crushing to watch this thing that you love go through like edit after edit after edit, and then have to go, we're not going to do it. So that, you know, that kind of thing, being able to take something you're really passionate about and do it yourself, you know, I think is really valuable for a lot of people.
Well, obviously we want this to be a dialogue with you guys as well, so I know we've got questions. If you've got one, raise your hand, stand up, and let it fly. The gentleman with glasses.
Hi, my name's Jason. I just want to say I've been really inspired by Womanthology. I wrote the first review of Womanthology. And we're hosting a signing for you guys at our store next month, which will be amazing because it'll be the first signing we have that's all women.
Tell people what the store is.
It's Emerald Knights Comics and Games in Burbank. We had Blair there last month.
I did a signing there. It's awesome. Plus, it is a two-story store, so it's got like a prison tier. It's awesome. Like you're in there and you're like, oh man, there's gonna be a riot. Like, it's really magic.
But at the Kamikaze panel, Bonnie actually said, like, because I was complaining about the DC and all that, and you told me, like, go out and make your own comics. And so I wanted to just let you know that, you know, after reading Womanthology and all that, I've been really inspired. And my wife and I are starting our own publishing company. We had our first meeting the other day with like 5 or 6 writers. Jody Hauser was one of them. And we're going to try to make our own all ages comics.
Yay! I'll have stories to submit to you, so
gentlemen in the front row.
There's a couple of things to say. I want to say thank you very much for this. I grew up in Mexico with a family full of women, so it's great seeing that respect as it really is, especially in comics, especially DC has gotten a little better, especially to that infamous Green Lantern cover a while back ago. But I just want to say another argument that I've seen is the sexuality. Why doesn't women use that sexuality? Why can't women engage in sexuality? And I don't know if you can answer that, but I think one of the reasons is the way it's portrayed. It's almost subservient.
It's a very limited idea, essentially. Because, like, I'm a very pro-sex positive feminist, so, like, it always irritates me when people think that the reason why feminists and women will have problems with certain sexual portrayals in comics. And I'm really with Gail Simone on this one. Like, I enjoy cheesecake. Like, pretty pinups and things like that are great. But if it's just there in some sort of, like, twisted version of just a fantasy that's put for a male viewer, I'm really less interested in it because it's not inclusive. I don't think that those images are as inclusive as people think they are. And I think that there's a lot of different ways that something can be sexy. I don't think it's just like showing as much as possible. I think there's a lot of different variations on that. And I think people have a really unfortunate idea that when women are talking about this stuff, they're like down with sex, because that's not the issue at all. It's just that how come it's really only for one audience and only one kind of like all the time. And that gets frustrating to see because, you know, as Trina was saying, like, I'm sure there are women who find, you know, comic book guys sexy, but to be perfectly frank, I have never found those characters sexy myself. You know, my husband is this like skinny, geeky game designer. So,
like, skinny is sexy.
lot to do with the power dynamic, and there is a subservient quality to it. It depends on the character. I mean, there's plenty of really strong, female characters, but I'd like to see some that are like, heavy. Like actually,
Adam even Invincible now, actually.
Or
Has changed.
simply not, as the self-appointed fashion police woman, who really sometimes wishes she could give out citations for bad dressing. What I really can't stand is this comic book concept, mainstream comic book concept, that is when a woman has superpowers, she immediately wants to dress like a slut.
I don't like when they strip down the character. The real problem with the New 52 isn't the sexuality. It's that you're watching our childhood heroes and you're taking, a character like Harley Quinn. How many here actually know how intelligent Harley Quinn actually is? Who actually knows her? Oh, there we go. See? I see a huge amount of hands in the audience there. And we all know that Harley Quinn is a genius. We all know that she snapped and went crazy for Joker. What we have now isn't Harley Quinn. What we have now in Catwoman isn't Catwoman. I mean, the Batman Year One arc, I'm not a big fan of it, simply not because of the sexuality. I'm a horror writer. I write prostitutes all the time. It's the fact that Catwoman is rich. It's a part of her character because she's smart enough to always make money. And so envisioning her as a prostitute, even in that situation, if you know the arc, you understand there was a situation behind it, was completely unrealistic for me. And it's not just with the base characters. Since I write horror, if it's unrealistic sexual use, it's not real. It's just fantasy. And so I just demand better writing. It has nothing to do with sex. Make me more realistic fantasy. Or just admit that you're just satisfying your own urges.
And I think there's plenty of comics that show female sexuality. I mean, I'm a huge Tank Girl fan, huge Love and Rockets fan, Strangers in Paradise. I mean, these all show women like being women, and they're hot, and they're all sizes. Tank Girl might be super duper crazy, but has sex with a kangaroo guy, but still, sex is sex. So, I mean, exactly. I like a girl that understands good hardware. So I think it's kind of up to women writers, and I don't want to just put the onus on us. I think it's up to guy writers. I mean, I think Joss Whedon kind of said it best. He's like, he doesn't write girl characters, he writes great characters. I mean, he writes great characters, whether they're guys or girls, demons, vampires, ghosts, whatever, it doesn't matter. And he understands that character development is key for whatever gender you're writing for. It should be what drives this character, not what outfit are they wearing. So I think the more you read quality comics and quality writers, the more as a writer yourself, you'll see that this is how comics should be done. But they're always, the fantasy thing's always going to be there. I mean, that's the comic elements there. I mean, I'm in love with Deadpool. Clearly, he's not, like, he's never looked like any of my ex-boyfriends, which is probably good. But still, that being said, that fantasy element's always going to be there. I think we're just going for more diverse characters and writing and comics to choose from, so it's not just looking like a weird broke-back model catalog for whatever.
And when the stories are better, then the characters are written in a way that's authentic. And these are ridiculous scenarios about the characters with superpowers and things that obviously do not exist in the real world. But suspension of disbelief does hang on believability of some kind, and you're rooting it in something. So if you have a character that is only based on basically one extremely shallow character moment, then it doesn't work. And overall, I just think that that's one of the problems I should like with those characters.
And when you strip a woman down to her raw sexuality and don't put a brain in there, what makes that character any different than any of the other characters in your series? And they're just the same woman with new hair and new makeup.
Yeah.
But is that even sexuality? I mean, I think those women are grotesque.
Well, from a purely practical standpoint, I think we can all agree that fighting crime in high heels with no pants on is not the best idea. When you go for the high kick through the mugger's face, things get awkward quickly.
I've always wanted there to be one issue, either Batman or, let's just say Batman, where all the characters, all the guy characters are forced to dress as women for the whole issue, and they have to wear high heels, everyone. Like every single villain, take away